I moved up the stairs with her in my arms easily enough, blushing the entire way. Goddess, I loved every single aspect about her. I wanted her deliciously, nutritiously, and I didn't want to scare the ever-loving daylights out of her, so that's why I backed off and let her wander the lunch hall, dissociating until she found her footing, anything to ground her other than me. Not for a while. Let me sink in. Molly looked around, dazed and confused again. What the hell was happening? She looked down and was thankfully still in the first clothes she'd been in. She scratched her neck and looked around at the brick catacombs, skulls embedded into the architecture. Molly sat upon a risen stone slab and looked around at the dungeon. The love cave? Tools hung from hooks upon the walls, swords, keys. It was an impressive place. 5 fires lit in 6 different hallways told Molly that if she ran in any direction, that she would likely get lost, caught, or eaten. She looked down at her clothes and was wearing the sacred silks of a priestess. Indubitably, she had to admit, she was a magnificent creature to look at. She turned her attention to the dragon who had brought her here and was now stalking around her in a circle. Apparently, himself, surely, to have gotten her so vulnerable and ripe for the taking. It almost wasn't fair, what he'd achieved. Well, here I go. I had her. She was there, just sitting there, so beautiful, the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen, and all I had to do to get her there was just to touch her. Did she even realize the position she was in? Was her heart fluttering like mine? I wanted to devour her, eat her, until she screamed for me to stop. But I held back my carnal impulses. I picked up a book of Latin poetry off the wall and began to read it to her in solidarity of my love. Molly stared at him in horror as he began the ritualistic chant. She decided to take her chances and slipped down the slab like a slippery, wickery rabbit and hopped right off down the closest hallway. No second left, as fast as she could. She hoped there was no wall waiting for her somewhere to bust her damn nose. Damn tits bouncing all over the place. She preferred the well-fitting tutu of a prison outfit. It really was something spectacular and hugged all her right curves. This priestess outfit? She silently reasoned to the spirit of the high priestess that she had picked the wrong body to receive her reincarnation. I don't want this doinky outfit. Where is my mailbag? I pulled her into a corner. Her startled scream echoed through the tunnels. Monsters stirred in their sleep. Mine did. I had to prove to Molly I wasn't a threat to her. He let me go and knelt on one knee. The chariot Meyer Stallion is a siren. She has the capacity to make me forget you and you forget me as many times as we need. The compulsion to find you and make you mine will always be burning, and when I figure you out, and I will because I'm the magician, we'll have her make us forget again, okay? There's no need to be afraid. Molly looked at him trembling. Monsters had wanted Molly since she had been born. She knew she was a starseed. All she had known were the wants of men and women, and here she was again, at the will of the wanting. So mote it be, Molly whispered, and the magician turned into golden dust, as did her silks, which disappeared back into her adorable prison outfit. Perhaps prison won't be that bad. We get a vacation. Molly opened her eyes and found her mailbag outside the tunnel of the lunatictuary walls and carried onward, forward, away from the nightmare. I'm a post-witch, not a priestess, she repeated to herself like a mantra. Artemis returned home, peeved. The golden shimmers of light dust he was smoothing off his jacket was an indication that he'd been dusted. She'd refused him. He couldn't believe it. How could she refuse him? Again. He had the castle, the hoard, the magic, the respect, the renown, the riches, the whole goddamn arcana. And she turned him away? Of course he wanted her even more now. Oh, goddess, how was he going to have her? Obviously, people cannot be had. Witches cannot be tamed. They were soldiers of magic to their last breath, beat a drum to the rhythm of their own heart. He had to go back to her wherever she was. He would create whatever she desired. He would not stop until her consciousness was his. Together, they would rule like king and queen of the arcana. Even the magician didn't understand that there was a reason magic people come first, and why the magic people don't marry or commit themselves to one another. Because ruling separately, but together, is what makes the high priestess and the magician the perfect leaders of the archetypes. Later. No? What do you mean, no? Asked Artemis as he wandered with Meyer Stallion through the candidates that were left. Molly was gone. She was the winner, obviously. She was currently on a hiatus as far as the school was concerned. Meyer Stallion looked at him as she combed her long red hair. I said no. I won't tell you where she went off to, even though I'm the only one who sent her there. You were dusted, obviously. She pointed to his jacket, where he brushed more gold off himself. You were the one who volunteered to do this, Artemis. It had to be you. It had to be me. Here, now, playing this memory game so she can have the piece she needs to discover the arcana. You want to have her? You already do. You're working the next millennia together. Do you have to start having her right now, this instant? Artemis created a sphere of metal in his hand. In nearly an instant, it was a shocking thing to just witness. For a moment before, there was nothing there, and a moment later, the black hole ball spinning perfectly. I can create anything in this world, he said, as the ball manifested in the shape of Molly's head. She's mine already, you say? He asked. Something small and childlike seemed to come out of him then. Well, of course. Valerie had the foresight to make her for you, and now you must have the willpower to wait for your reward a little longer. I don't know how much longer I can wait, he admitted to her. Every second that he was away from her was like agony, like a whipping to his heart. But of course, he would endure for her, for love was the only thing in this miserable life that seemed worth waiting for at all. Perhaps he would wait and bide his time. He had to. Besides, said Meyer Stallion, I didn't tamper with her memory this time. This gave him hope, as he remembered now where Molly was headed. Yes, to deliver mail to the Arcana. He would wait for her. He was on her list. Artemis felt relatively relieved now that he had a plan to meet back up with Molly. He would not stalk her, though his blood drove him to, sink his teeth into her sweet flesh and claim her for himself. No. He had a choice before him. Decisions were power. What kind of leader did he expect her to be? An exemplary one, the same as the rest of the Arcana, to be able to recognize each of them for who they were. He had received no invitation yet, which meant she had not seen him yet for who he really was. Soon, but there would be time. He just had to wait. Later. Artemis flew to a nearby volcano. He was stark naked and had just come to his wits' end with a fire elemental. They always had a particular control over him that Artemis simply couldn't resist. He sat there as the heat smoldered behind him. "Are you even sure you should be here with me like this?" The whole world felt the monumental shift when the spirit of the High Priestess reincarnated into our existence. A goddess on earth, truly, and you're going to just let her fend for herself out there, your twin flame. "She's as much a storm bringer as the rest of them. I wouldn't dare to dim her light," he said, drinking from a coffee he materialized into a rose mug. The sunbeam stroked through the clouds and fell upon his coffee, the glass chalice changing colors as the coffee swirled round.